to Nizzy's Sports Chat. I am your host, Nizzy. And in this video, you guys, we got our second installment of the NFL Top 10s coming into the 2021 season. We got another fun one for you today, guys. We're going to be breaking down the top 10 running backs going into the 2021 season here. I just recently did a video on the top 10 QBs. You can go ahead and find that video on my channel where I break down the top 10 quarterbacks going into the 2021 season. Probably going to be breaking down every position, both on the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. I'll probably group in the linemen all in one position. Same with the defensive line. I'll group all of them in one position. But nonetheless, it should be a fun little thing to be doing over the next month while we get ready for preseason here. And without further ado, you guys, let's get into it. So with the number one spot for the top running back going into the 2021 season, there's no surprise here, you guys. I'm sure you could guess it yourselves, and we're going to go ahead with Derrick Henry. I mean, this one's an absolute given. The guy had a 2,000-yard season last year, 2,027 yards. I mean, absolutely outstanding. I think he's been the only 2,000-yard rusher since Adrian Peterson a few years back there when AP was doing that with the Vikings. And on top of that, 2,000 yards, averaged really nice yards per carry with 5.4 yards per carry last season, which is really nice. Also added 17 rushing touchdowns on top of that. Had one 94-yard carry last year for a touchdown. Absolutely insane. He had 3 games last season as well where he rushed for over 200 yards, which is just incredible. This guy's an absolute beast. Obviously, with the addition of Julio Jones there, they're going to have a few extra people to be passing the ball to. I think that offense of theirs is going to be just rolling next year. It's going to take a little bit more pressure off of Derrick Henry as well, just adding Julio Jones. They're going to have a little more passing options for the throwing game there with Ryan Tannehill. So we'll have to see what happens with all of that, but Derrick Henry should be primed up for another good season here. See if he can crack that 2,000-yard mark, but I think it's pretty well hands down that this guy is the top running back in the league today. Just another stat of note, you guys, he had 6 multi-touchdown games last season with 2 or more touchdowns. That's absolutely insane. The guy gets it done on every facet, and just an absolute bull of a running back. So hands down, number one running back in the league going into 2021. So off to the second spot, you guys. I think this one's pretty easy one as well. I got Dalvin Cook in the number 2 slot. He was second in the league with rushing last year with 1,557 yards rushing, 1,557 yards. Averaged out 5 yards per carry. The guy can do a little bit of everything for you. He can catch the ball really well as well as run it. He had 44 catches last year for 361 yards and a tub. So the guy can get it done, whether it be catching the ball, running the ball, hitting some screen outlets. He's pretty good in the pass blocking as well. Had 16 rushing touchdowns last year as well, which is outstanding. 7 100-yard games or more last season as well for Dalvin Cook. 1 200-yard game from him as well. So he was just going off last year. I would expect another good prime season from him this year, obviously, with the emergence of Justin Jefferson. You still got Adam Thielen there. They got a couple nice pieces on that Minnesota team. So the pressure shouldn't be too heavy on Dalvin Cook, but he is their workhorse, and I expect him to have another big season coming up in 2021. And then in the number 3 slot, you guys, a little bit of bias here once again with the Packers. I'm going ahead and taking Aaron Jones in that number 3 slot. Probably could have had Kamara above him, but like I said, a little bit of bias, seeing as I'm a Packers fan. I'm going to throw Aaron Jones in that 3 slot. Had another nice season last year at 1,100 yards on the ground for us, 5.5 yards per carry, which is really nice, almost 6 yards a carry there. Only had 9 touchdowns last year, which is still pretty nice, but he did have, I believe it was 18 or 20 touchdowns the year before, so a little bit less of production, but that was just because A-Rod had such a great season throwing the ball last year. He wasn't really needed in those 5 to 10 yard stretches near the red zone there where he was able to run them in a couple of years back. So a little bit less of the touchdowns for him last year, but nonetheless a great season still. Multifaceted tool as well because he can catch the hell out of the ball. Had 47 catches last year for 355 yards and 2 tubs. 77-yard rushing touchdown last year as well where he just split the D in half. He's got such quick burst speed, Aaron Jones does, which just makes him such a home run threat. If he's able to get just a little crack in the defense, he can just break right through them and take it to the house on you. So he's one of the quickest guys at the running back slot, I would say, in the league. Really shifty and jukey, and he's also tough for being not that big of a running back. I think he's only 205 pounds or so. Not a huge guy, but plays super tough, plays way bigger than he is. Outstanding player, great team guy, very humble. Glad to have him on the Packers team, and he's my third running back going into the 2021 season. And then next, obviously, we got Alvin Kamara. You guys, like I said, it could have been Kamara or Aaron Jones, either or in that 3 slot. Like I said, a little bit of bias for me, so I had Aaron Jones there, but we got Alvin Kamara in the 4 slot. Another nice season from him last year as well, finishing with 932 rushing yards, averaging around 5 yards per carry. So another nice average, basically getting a first down every 2 carries, which is nice. 16 touchdowns on top of that as well, which is huge. Right up there with Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry for the league lead last year in touchdowns. And the biggest threat with Alvin Kamara here, he only had 900 plus yards rushing the ball, but he had 756 yards catching last year with 83 receptions, which is just insane. Basically, probably had more catches than half of the receivers out there in the top 15, top 20. So he was just annihilating it, whether it be catching the ball or running the ball last year. Also added in 5 more touchdowns on top of that, so that gives him a total of 21 total touchdowns last year and 1,688 all-purpose yards, which is insane. The dude's just such a weapon for them, and he's going to need to step up big time this year with Drew Brees out. We're going to have to see how the Saints end up managing this year. But nonetheless, they're going to be rolling with Alvin Kamara still, and he's a great running back, so that's why I got him in my number 4 slot going into the season. Then number 5, you guys, we got Nick Chubb from the Cleveland Browns. This guy just continues to get better and better each season. Missed a few games too. He only played in 12 games last year, so he missed 4 games last year. Still eclipsed the 1,000-yard mark with 1,067 yards. Averaged more than anyone in the league last year, 5.6 yards per carry. Really nice average per carry. 12 touchdowns on top of that. 6 games last year we had 100-plus yards, which is really nice. He only played in 12, so that means half of the games he played in, he went for over 100 yards. And another reason why that's so impressive, you guys, is because he has another big-time running back with Kareem Hunt on the team. So it's not necessarily needed that Chubb has to run a lot. A lot of the games he's not getting 20 or 25 carries to get these 100 yards. He's only getting maybe, that 10 to 15 range because they try and split the carries between him and Kareem Hunt, which makes sense, obviously, because they're both really talented running backs. So it makes it even more impressive to see how many yards he's been able to accumulate in touchdowns. When they kind of running a 2-headed monster down there in Cleveland. He's not the main guy, right? Because they're just splitting carries between those 2 guys. So super impressive from him as well. Then go over to the 6 slot, you guys. I got a few guys here with some injuries last season that I threw into the top 10s that I think will have major breakout comeback years this year. Number 6 slot, we got Saquon Barkley. Rough season for him last year. Got injured in that 2nd game of the season. Wasn't able to play the rest of the year. I believe he had a torn ACL, it was. Really unfortunate for him. He's been dealing with a little bit of injury woes in his first couple of years in the league. I think we all know the talent that he carries, though, and how good he can be when he gets to play a full season. So we'll have to see what happens this year. Obviously, the Giants have made a bunch of additions to the team, to their offensive group there with the O-line as well as their receiving core. So that should help to take a little bit of pressure off of Saquon. And not to mention that Daniel Jones is going into I believe it's his 3rd year now at QB. So he should be a little more primed and ready and understanding the offense and how to read a defense a little better. So all those things should help Saquon Barkley be a better running back this year, barring that he can stay healthy for a full season. So I think he'll have a huge bounce back year. That's why I got him in my 6th slot, so long as he stays healthy. And then over in the 7th slot, we got another guy who really didn't play a lot last year, but we know the potential and the capabilities that he does have if he stays healthy, and that is Christian McCaffrey. Got him in my number 7 slot. Only played 3 games last year as well. I believe he's dealing with ankle and shoulder injuries most of the season. Pretty unfortunate. He was the top running back in the league a couple years back there, kind of before Derrick Henry took over the crown. But Christian McCaffrey is one of those multifaceted tools as well who can really catch the ball well, run the ball well. He was their workhorse a couple years back. Obviously, last year with the injuries, he wasn't able to be that guy. But he was a couple of years ago, and barring no injury setbacks this year, I'd expect him to be that workhorse again. Just being able to catch and run the ball really well for you, getting lots of possessions. So I got him at my number 7 slot, Christian McCaffrey. And then number 8 slot, you guys, I got the 2nd-year guy going into his 3rd season, Josh Jacobs out of Oakland. Had 1,065 yards rushing last year, 3.9 yard average per carry, a little bit lower than the other guys, but still managed to punch in 12 TDs with you as well. He had 10 games last season where he had 15 or more carries, so that just goes to show you how much of a workhorse this guy is and how much John Gruden likes to utilize him. Also added on 33 catches for 250 or 238 yards. So once again, one of those multifaceted running backs. And he's their workhorse big time. John Gruden loves having a workhorse on the team. He doesn't really bounce around the carries too much between Josh Jacobs and their second man up there. Jacobs gets the bulk of the carries. He's usually over 20 carries a game. I think he had 6 games last year where he has 20 or more carries. So they really like to utilize him a lot. And he does do a great job. He just pounds the rock heavy, beats down that defense for you real good. So I think he's a great up-and-coming running back who's only going to continue to get better as the years go on here. So I got him in my number 8 slot. Number 9, this one could bring a little bit of controversy these last two. You could have went a bunch of ways with the bottom 2 or 3 here. I decided to go with Zeke. Had a little bit of a down season last year, nothing too crazy. Only finished with 979 yards, just shy of a 1,000-yard season. Not a great year for him. He only averaged 4 yards per carry, which isn't terrible, but it's not super impressive either, because if you look at the top dogs in the league, they're all averaging around 5 to 5.5 yards per carry. He's down at that 4 range. Also only pitched in with 6 touchdowns last year. But he did have 52 catches for 338 yards and a couple tubs as well. And he did fumble 6 times, so he's got to get his fumbling woes intact a little bit there, fix that problem up. Come back in a little better shape, I think, with his Cabo there and everything going on with getting that big contract. I think he was just being lazy the last couple seasons here. But I would expect Zeke to have a breakout year this year, especially with Dak coming back. They're kind of rebuilding, retooling that defense on that team, so they'll be able to run the ball a little better if they don't get behind so quickly in games. And that'll just benefit to Zeke being able to pound that rock in for them. So I got him in my 9 slot. And then to round out the list, you guys, another guy who really didn't play a lot last year, but the potential is there to be a top 10 running back for sure, and he's been there before, and that is Joe Mixon from Cincinnati. Only played 5 games last year, still had 428 yards in those 5 games with 3 touchdowns. Had 1 game last year out of the 5 where he had a 150-yard rushing game. Really nice performance from him. I believe that was against Jacksonville. But this guy's got all the potential in the world to be a 1,000-yard plus guy, 10 touchdown plus guy for them, be their workhorse in the backfield. Obviously, with Joe Burrow coming back off that injury, they're going to want to have a nice running game. They try to help out a little bit with that O-line and got a couple new offensive linemen in there. Re-solidified that receiver core by drafting Jamar Chase there. So they got a couple nice receivers, got a couple other outlet people that they can hit instead of Joe Mixon to take the pressure off him a little bit, which should actually open things up for him a little bit with the run game. So I got him in my number 10 slot, you guys. And that rounds out the top 10 running backs going into the 2021 season. Can't wait for the season to fire up here, you guys. Hopefully Aaron Rodgers is back for the pack. But once again, we'll just rehash this list real quick before we finish off this video here. So in the number 1 slot, we got Derrick Henry, obviously. Number 2, we went with Dalvin Cook from Minnesota. Number 3, we took Aaron Jones. 4, we went with Alvin Kamara from the Saints. Number 5 is Nick Chubb. Number 6, we went with Saquon Barkley. Hopefully he has a nice bounce back year this year. Same with McCaffrey, who we went with in the 7 slot. Josh Jacobs, the workhorse out of Oakland, we took in the 8 slot. And then we got the workhorse out of Dallas and Zeke at the 9 slot, and Joe Mixon hopefully having a bounce back year in that 10 slot. So let me know what you guys think of the top 10 list here. Once again, this is all my opinion on these. This could be changed for each person depending on how you guys view the running backs out there today. Be curious to get your guys' thoughts on what your top 10 is of running backs going into the 2021 season. And once again, you guys, I appreciate all the support and you guys taking the time to watch this video and all the videos on my channel. Once again, please leave a like or subscribe to the channel if you so choose. Once again, this is Nizzy with Nizzy Sports Chat.